Video is we're going to replace the final gear set bearings, and it's basically this shaft here. We're going to replace the bearings on it. And you might ask, how did I know that they're bad? Is because we're also taking this apart for replacing the crankshaft bearings, and that's going to be another separate video. But what we noticed is with the scooter, it shifted great until the transmission warmed up, and then after the transmission warmed up, you'd hit the gas and the RPMs would go up to its top gear, and the RPMs would drop down to 6 grand, and then it would slowly climb out. And so when we brought it back, when the tranny was hot, we grabbed this here, and it's very hard to feel, but if you go forward and backwards real lightly, you can feel a little clunk in there. Clunk, 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 clunk. Back and forth, just a little tiny shift in there, and that tells you that those bearings are bad. In the video, we're going to pull this whole case out because we have other stuff to do, but what I'm going to do for these bearings can be done on the scooter itself. But of course, we're going to pull it all out for the other work that we're doing. Right here. And you need to drain the fluid for both replacing the final gear set, and if you're going to be working on the scooter replacing the main bearings, you might as well go ahead and drain it and replace the fluid anyway. As far as the nut back here, I already had pulled this off with the impact wrench, and now what we're going to do is pull the brakes off, get the tire out of the way. There's more than one way to do it. You can pull these two bolts out and pull the caliper off, but I'm trying to do is unbolt as little as possible. So I'm just going to lift the cover here, and I'm going to pull until the brakes can come off. There we go. And you have your spacer that comes out from inside there. Alright, I have all of the bolts loose, but before I take them out, I got a piece of paper here, and what I'm going to do is draw the same bolt pattern on the paper down here so I know where all these bolts go. So when I put them back together, they're different lengths. Instead of saying, oh, does this one fit here, this one fit there? No, I got it on my paper here telling me where everything fits. Well, I have the pattern, and basically what I did is I poked holes to where the bolts are coming out. So I'll grab the bolts and start putting them in where they belong on my pattern. And as you can see, this one here I'm leaving in because that's the filler plug. Cardboard works a little bit better for this than paper, but this is all I had around, so I'm going to use what I have. Oops. So now when this goes back together, I have my bolts and the patterns that they're going to go into. They're going to go back in. So we're going to pull the other side off now, and I'll set this aside really nice and easy. You can see, and what we're going to do now is we're going to pull this off. And the way to pull it off is it has little tabs, and if you look closely, there's a little tab there. I'm going to get inside with a punch from the other side. I'm going to use a dead blow hammer, and I'm going to knock it right there. And then there's another one, a tab. Let's see if I can get that out of the way. And there's another one right here, as you can see. And there's one more down here on the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and smack those three and knock the other side off. So we're gonna do that next as soon as I get my. All right, I have my dead blow here, and I have just basically a little piece of metal that I'm going to use to pop that other side off. I also put a paper plate underneath, so I don't want this oil on my workbench. So I'm going to start with the top one up here, and it's kind of hard to see. It's right back here. Let's see if I can get it over there. See, it's right there. I'm going to start by knocking that one just a little bit, and it's already starting to crack loose with just that first punch, so it doesn't look like I'm going to need to do any more with the punch. It should come loose, come right out. There we go. And now it's loose. Here's your gasket. This is the bearing we're going to actually be replacing. Is this bearing up here in top. So I'm going to go ahead and let this strip. Oops! I'm going to let this strip dry. And if you come around to the other side, the other bearing that we're going to be replacing is right there. And that's the other side of the final gear set. Something you want to make note of when you take this apart is this right here, how this gear is sitting in there. Because when you go to put it back together, by accident, you could possibly put it in there like this. It fits, but what happens is you'll get a gap in here. When you're trying to put it back together, you'll get a little gap, and it won't close all the way, and you won't understand why it's not closing. It's because this gear is backwards. So always pay attention to the way this gear is in. So we'll just put it back in here like this, and we're going to put this down over here so it starts to drain, and we're going to wipe that out. While I was gone is I pulled the bearing out of here, and that's the opposite side of this shaft over here, and that's your final gear set, final gear, and that goes around, and this over here fits onto the that's where your torque drive fits on. Now to get this bearing out, there's no way of pushing it out from the backside, as you can see. So what I needed to use was, it's called a blind bearing puller. And basically what it does is this opens up. So the bearing was in there. I stuck it in. I twisted this here. That opened up to where it hooked on the bearing. And then I attached a slide hammer here, and I snapped it and popped the bearing out just like that. So we're working on this now. We're going to push this bearing out this side. And what I've done is I went ahead and put the nut back on so I don't strip the threads when I hit it with my dead blow. Now this is plastic, so I don't think I really doubt it's going to do any damage. And there it is. It's out. Came from inside there. This pressed out. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and see if I can heat this up and get this bearing to just slide off. Well, this has spent a little bit of time in here, and in the meantime I got the vise out. And I'm not sure, I'm not an expert at this. Maybe it'd have been better to cool it instead of heat it, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in the vise right here, and I'm just going to tap this down.